Hey, soy Isra García. Bienvenido a Disrupt Everything Podcast Series. Reinventarse a uno mismo, de todas las formas posibles. Utilizar ese 1% que marca la diferencia, enmarcar la diferencia y cambiarlo todo. Experimentar, intentar diferente, prototipar, despuntar, sobresalir de uno mismo y hacer accesible lo inaccesible. Hacer en la práctica lo que en la teoría parecía imposible. Destrozar perfecto y habilitar imposible. En este podcast encontrarás superhábitos, habilidades, núcleo, ultraproductividad, la calibración, optimización y sincronización de las 4 dimensiones del potencial humano: física, emocional, intelectual y espiritual. Entrevistas a los más grandes disruptores que he podido encontrar, que conozco y a los que puedo acceder. Grandes líderes de la talla de Robin Sharma, de la talla de Seth Godin, y personas completamente fuera del molde, fuera de la caja. Espero que lo disfrutes y que resuene contigo, que lo utilices, que lo aproveches, que lo maximices y que te suscribas, le des a la campana para que cuando haya nuevos episodios te notifiquen, que le des un like para poder alcanzar a más personas. Y cualquier duda, pregunta, petición, invitado, lo que sea, espero tu comentario porque lo vamos a tener muy en cuenta y tan pronto como pueda responderé. Gracias por tú, gracias por sobresalir y gracias por encontrar el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a ti. Vamos a ello.
Bienvenidos a Disrupt Everything, podcast series by Isra García. Reinvéntate a ti mismo y cambia lo que más te importa.
Hello, this time it's not in Spanish as is usual. Hello everyone, welcome to Disrupt Everything podcast series. This time I have an international guest, like one of the first bloggers and influencers and professionals I started to follow when I entered on the digital landscape. For me, it's an amazing pleasure to introduce you to Jeff Bullas. Jeff, thank you for being here in the podcast.
You're welcome, and it's great to be on it, Isra. Thank you very much for inviting me.
I remember started following Jeff early 2009, I guess, and and it was crazy. It was crazy because when you started to look for something on how to do a Facebook strategy, nothing appeared unless some people like Jeff, Chris Brogan, Brent Solis, like a really few. From that moment on, I'm just still a subscriber of his blog. He has like 600,000 social media followers, millions of visitors a year in his site, jeffbullas.com. Check it out. And his journey started in 2008. I guess jumping between jobs. How did you start, Jeff? I mean, because nowadays you're a bigger influencer, featured in Forbes, included in Entrepreneur, listed in Forbes as one of the top 20 influencers, global digital marketing influencer, ranked number 1, world first business blogger. I mean, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And it wasn't only 2008 until 2018. I mean, it's been 10 years. Jeff, what have you been, or what has been the keys or the key milestones since early age? Not since 2008, since you started, since you were born until getting here.
Okay, so I suppose the initial inspiration came from was a lady I was going out with at the time, and she invited me to be on Facebook in the middle of 2008. And I got on, registered for Facebook, and noticed all these people I hadn't seen in 20, 30 years that I used to go to college with and do my teaching degree with. They just popped up and all around the world looking a bit older and grayer, and some with a lot less hair. So it was, I went, wow, this is very cool. And then, so it's like this global platform, this global network just unfolded before me. And I noticed people's behavior was quite obsessive. And this was essentially before the mobile phone. Steve Jobs, I think the iPhone had just come out the year before, hadn't reached any critical mass yet. So mobiles were still for the executives who had the crackberries, the Blackberries.
Yeah, still remember it.
And then I leapt onto Twitter, and I noticed the same obsessive behaviour. And I at the time I was actually between jobs. That was code for unemployed. So I was reading a couple of books. One was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week, which sort of opened my eyes to the possibilities of creating a lifestyle business that gave me the flexibility to be anywhere in the world and still have a business. So that sort of intrigued me and opened my eyes to that possibility. And then there was a book by David Meerman Scott called The New Rules of Marketing and PR, and that book suggested that if you created content online, you would attract an audience rather than have to chase an audience. And there's a great quote I got off a friend of mine, Jeremy Epstein, and it's the bottom of his blog I noticed the other day, and he said, sales, you call them; marketing, they call you.
That's it.
And what basically David's book suggested was the power of actually creating the best content you could online to attract an audience. And because I've been involved in a lot of cold calling and building businesses, by getting on the phone and calling people, it really resonated with me. I said, wow, if you could do this would be pretty cool to actually attract an audience.
Rather
and they
than
show
chasing
up.
them, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I came across a blog by HubSpot, which said if you have an inkling of what you want to, write about or start a business on, just start a blog. So I went, okay. I didn't even know what a blog I think was at the time. I went, okay. So blogs, actually just an online publishing machine, a platform. So we got a WordPress site in March 2009. We started writing and then publishing online, and it started from there. So it was really a little passion project that eventually escaped the lab. And I was part of my curiosity was, would this tactic actually attract an audience, and would I be able to then make money out of it? And was it a fad, or was it an ongoing trend? Was social media here to stay? Because 10 years ago, social media was just, at its embryonic stages.
Exactly.
Facebook had taken over. MySpace's position as like the premier network. It was only about 50 to 60 million people on Facebook, whereas today we've got 2.1 billion. Twitter had 4 or 5 million users. So it was just a passion project, and I just started publishing online, and Twitter was one of my main networks. I found that I could actually grow my followers, and I had more followers. So there's two parts to the equation. Number one was creating the best content I could at the time, and I wasn't a good writer then. I was just learning, and I discovered that I love writing. So you've got to be able to create good content the best you can, and as you get better at it, you'll create better content. The other part I realized I needed to do was build distribution. So that was the other part of the equation. And essentially I was a content marketer. Then the world started showing up. I got invited to run a workshop in New Zealand, and that led to me being involved in a startup that's really starting to grow fast today, a company called Shuttle Rock, and I'm on the board. So that came out of that. Just by creating content, I got contacted by the CEO, the entrepreneur, just started another business in New Zealand. He said, when you want to come on the board, do you want to be part of the business? And I said, absolutely. So,
Nice.
And then I got invited to speak in Italy, and I went, and they were willing to pay me as well. And I went, something going on here. So I really ramped up the activity. So for the next 4 years, I used to write late at night. For the next 4 years, I got up at 4:30 a.m. and wrote and published and marketed my blog posts till 9 a.m. before I started my day job.
4 to 9.
Yeah. Yep. And I didn't realize at the time, but that I was doing something that Cal Newport in his book Deep Work describes, which is sitting down every day and actually investing in yourself by both reading, researching, creating, publishing, and then sharing it with the world. Because creating is one thing, but I think the real magic happens when you share it with the world. And the platforms, the Facebooks and the Twitters, give us the means to actually reach a global audience. So, one, I had good timing, I suppose. I was there at the start of the social media revolution, and then also along the way, the Apple iPhone, basically became ubiquitous right around the world, and smartphones. So the perfect intersection, these two obsessive technologies of social media and smartphones just became this perfect storm for the democratization of publishing, marketing, and even business. So today we have apps that are just businesses. Uber is a perfect example.
Exactly.
So that's what started to happen, and it came from just a passionate curiosity about a topic that I started writing on. So I still am fascinated today by what shows up in my email inbox because of the
years ago, yeah.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that you've been following since 2009. That's amazing. You must be one of a few, because there wasn't many back in 2009.
Yeah, I mean,
so
I started getting interested because I discovered this in 2008 when Facebook was closed. Thanks to Andrew Grant, who introduced it to me to Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. And then I started. How do you learn? I mean, there is nothing online you can learn from it. So you have to do it by yourself, and then looking for answers, and then some people start to pop up, and you were one of them. So it's great to know what you just explained. I mean, how you started, because I saw it from the other side of the bench. And it's crazy to it's great to know how it happened and what's the views from yourself of how did you make this change happen. And for me, one of the key lessons is what you said, of just sitting down 4 hours or 5 hours in this case, and creating and investing in yourself and doing the work that matters. I mean, that is self-discipline. This is what I guess get you where you are right now. Inside of these challenges, what change surprised you the most in this digital landscape? What change has get you more surprised for you? Like you say, wow.
So so the question is, you're saying, is what are some of the things that have happened along the way that surprised me?
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, what change in this digital landscape has surprised you the most? Exactly.
With a range of things. So I suppose one of the biggest changes was the imposition or the application of algorithms to organic Facebook and social media reach. In other words, we've moved from very much, when I started, it was very organic. You could get a lot of traction from social media organically. In other words, you've had a Facebook page and you had 1 million followers, a lot of people would see your posts. And in 2013, 2014, Facebook started winding up its algorithm so that it became pay to play. That was one of the biggest changes that I suppose both threatened my perspective, and also one of the joys that attracted me to social media was its ability to reach the world without paying the gatekeepers and without begging it for attention. Now, that's getting a little harder to do because we're ending up with new gatekeepers. And the gatekeepers before were the media moguls, the newspapers, the TV stations. They were the gatekeepers, and the book publishers. Today, the gatekeeper is not only them, it's also Facebook itself. So, yeah. And on the other hand, there are still algorithms applied to Twitter. Twitter's organic reach has been reduced, but nothing like Facebook's. So I'm glad I invested a fair bit of time in Twitter. But I'm optimistically paranoid that I'm assuming that social media is going to continue to go that way. So it's all about learning different tactics that help you still to reach an audience without paying for it. I'm sort of resistant to paying for attention after working so hard for years. And I understand that Facebook's got to charge money because they've got to turn on the lights and pay 10,000 employees. I get that. But I think one of the other things that I wrote about recently was that I think Facebook's become too greedy. It's wound its organic reach down to almost zero. Yet with Google, you can actually earn authority when you create content. With Facebook, you don't earn any authority by giving them content.
Any.
Essentially, any. So even on YouTube, Google owns YouTube, but YouTube, they share revenue with the people that create content on YouTube. So you can earn, like for me today, 65% of my traffic comes from earned Google search. And we've had to invest in different tactics to continue to evolve as the landscape evolved. And even email is becoming less effective, and algorithms applied to that.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest changes that we've had to adapt to. So we've been experimenting with with tactics such as using Flipboard to publish to, Medium. We're experimenting with Push Crew, which is the pop-ups that people can subscribe to, that whenever you do an RSS detection, it detects a new blog post and it pushes it out to a pop-up for your web. That's building very nicely. One thing we just actually started today, and a few people are doing it already, is Facebook bots in terms of Messenger, because Messenger gets such high open rates compared to email. So the challenge is that each type of channel is getting harder to get free organic earned attention. Sure, you can get targeted Facebook advertising, and that's good if you want to accelerate your discovery and drive traffic quickly. But you've got to have deep pockets to do that, and you've got to really know what you're doing. And Facebook advertising is becoming very, very complex.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So the algorithms is one. What's the other surprise? A surprise that turned up along the way was the power of the mobile phone. Basically, it's put a publishing machine in everyone's pockets and purses. So, and the other thing that we're in the middle of, the third thing that I'm watching very closely and how we continue to play is essentially the rise of AI and automation. And that's the other part, the two big A's, I call them. So artificial intelligence is going to have some huge implications, and also add to that blockchain, which we're watching in our startup that we're involved with, which is now not a startup, 6 years down the track, but we're doing that. So we're experimenting with a lot of different tactics that actually allow us to actually generate traffic, and growth hacking to actually get traffic and earn it. So, yeah, there's some of the different changes that I think have been challenging and also sometimes surprising.
And talking about the tactics and techniques for businesses and for getting organic reach, where do you think that companies should focus on digital marketing?
And you've got to go multi-channel. There's no other way. So you've got to work on, there's some key ones that you really do need to focus on. Email is not going to go away anytime soon. It is becoming less effective. Facebook Messenger, I think, is another channel that you've got to really work on. So that's why we've implemented a Facebook bot for people to actually get information from us and free content that way, but they become Messenger subscribers then.
Wow.
So the other one is you need to understand how to continue to earn authority with Google. So you need to be working on your SEO, your search engine optimization. You need to be doing two parts of the equation. Number one, you need to make sure you're doing the technical part well, and then creating great content that sits with that. Those are the two key pillars of good SEO strategy. Social also is another tactic that you really need to get to do well. Like we experiment all the time with different tactics, such as how to get blog posts to actually, not blog posts, articles to actually go semi-viral on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's actually become a very interesting platform. And I've been experimenting with more storytelling actually on LinkedIn posts. The long
LinkedIn
form
post,
post used to be.
it works better.
Yeah.
It works better when you put the content in the platform rather than posting the link. They give you more reach.
So you essentially tell a story, a very emotional story, a pain point, start with that, and then actually have a conversation, tell a story, and don't put the link actually in the main body, actually put it in the first comment. So when people show up, they see your comment and they said, click on the link to get the rest of the article. So that 1,300 character posts are actually great. Long form articles used to work very, very well, but they used to push it out to all your followers and connections initially, but that has been removed over the last couple of years. So it's a lot of experimentation that you need to do and try different things and keep learning. So it's really about continuous learning, testing things, breaking things, testing and seeing what works and what doesn't. And you'll be surprised. And I think nothing's big bang now. It's just increments by doing a range of different multi-channel tactics that add up lead to discovery, to clicks, it's fascinating. It's we've really decided that we're going to double down on publishing this year. So we've got some good projects happening there. We invested a fair bit in SEO over the last 12 months, and that's really starting to show some big dividends. So we technically cleaned up the site and made sure we were technically good, so optimized for mobile. We actually made sure we had site maps, made sure we had our meta descriptions right. We got rid of bad links, toxic links. Did a lot of technical cleanup and restructuring of the site, which was a big job because we've got about 3 million words on the site and nearly 2,000 articles. So, and we get about 4 to 5 million visitors a year. So it's an asset I didn't want to let just sit there. So we've been doing a lot of optimization tactics over the last 12 months. And so SEO is 65% of our traffic now, and social is only 5%. Occasionally we get some really good viral traffic out of Flipboard, but that tends to be more like success stories and personal development content.
So what kind of you have built a blog that remains so popular over the years, and would you say that is for investing in the blog all the time and investing in like, as you said, like optimizing the blog? What is the key of your blog that is getting is remaining popular and growing over the years?
What you got to do is you actually got to keep investing in it. So for a couple of years, I really didn't invest back in my digital asset. And I think you got to think of your website and blog as a digital asset. So it's not something that you set and forget. You can maybe get away with that a few years ago, but today that is not a good idea. So I realized that it's a digital asset that I love working in and within and sharing. So I keep investing in the blog. So we actually did a major work last year on SEO technically. We're moving forward with pillar content, which is 4,000 or 5,000 word blog posts. We're working on content upgrades for building our email list. We're also continuing to invest back in things like I noticed site speed would dropped a bit, so we needed to work on image optimization so the website, when people land on the homepage, is not too big. In other words, it downloads slowly because of the file size. So I had my SEO guru actually go in and do an audit again after 6 months and go back in, and he said, these are the 7 key things we need to do. And I said, away you go, we need to do this. So it's investing back. You can't have a house and not keep looking after it, painting the place every now and then, making sure your taps aren't dripping, make sure that your windows don't leak, make sure your roof is kept and maintained, your gutters are cleaned. It's the same deal. You've got to look after your digital asset. And for me, it's very important. It's become part of me. It's my creation. So,
how much do you think we can invest, or how much do you invest in your blog, like regularly, and how much we should invest in our blogs?
there's no correct right or wrong to that. It's we all have different tactics. We all have different media. So, for example, you're maybe more a podcast. Other people are video bloggers. So it would be optimizing video for search engines. Podcasts would be optimizing for actual downloads. So it depends on what you're actually concentrating on. And so I invest in great content. Also, technically, we invest as well and spend time and resources to actually continue to evolve what we do. So, for example, we're continue to work on our marketing funnels. We continue to work on implementing Facebook bots to actually make us more efficient, and also fish where the fish are. A lot of people on Facebook, and they love Messenger rather than email to get their information. So I don't. I actually get very little information from Facebook, but the rest of the world does. So I'm a little old school, maybe after 9 or 10 years. So I'm not a big Snapchat user. I'm not one that goes and chases shiny new toys. A little bit more in the B2B space, I suppose. So, but I'm still communicating with humans. Yeah. So you've still got to keep investing in both the resources, both people and tactics. And but the one for the last 12 months that's been a big focus has been our SEO investment, and it's really paying off. I think we've increased our SEO traffic by 60 or 70%.
Wow.
But the reality with that is that you don't see quick results.
That's it.
And
CEO
and
being said so.
and so if you had someone who didn't understand technically and they were the owner of a business, they're going, "Hey Jeff, you've been doing this for 6 months. You've been investing in this. You've been doing that. Traffic's still the same, or it's dropping." And going, "Trust me, it's going to work." So it's fascinating because being in digital business is actually a mindset as well. It's a different way of working. It's a different mindset. You've got to be continuously learning and understand that the platforms and the social networks are not going to look after you. They're only looking after one thing themselves. They're all about increasing their revenue. So if you happen to be collateral in their algorithm change, they don't care. So you've got to understand that.
What is you were talking about the mindset. What would you say is the mindset of a digital marketer or a person that is working in a digital economy today?
Number one, you've got to have an open mind. You've got to be committed to continuous learning. A lot of people get their degree, go and start a job, and they never really learn much again. They read books, magazines, and watch TV. The reality is that in a fast-changing world, continuous learning and education is absolutely necessary, because you're going to be irrelevant if you don't do something even within 1 to 2 years. So investing in yourself and continuous learning is a mindset. And lucky for me, I actually love reading. So that's really important. If you don't like reading, well, and you like listening, listen to podcasts. There you go. If you don't want to listen to a podcast, but you love watching videos, watch videos. Go to YouTube. So if you don't want to read a Kindle ebook, download the audiobook. So there's a bunch of different ways to learn, and we all got our different ways of learning. So some of us have our own preferences of how we consume content.
And you have wrote an ebook called the 8 Keys of 8 Keys Steps for Blogging Mastery. Can you elaborate on that? I mean, what are the key tricks on blogging? For what would you say? Okay,
blogging, you've got to think like a publisher. So that's actually another digital mindset. A lot of companies don't get that they've got to become publishers. But the blogging, number one, you need to create great content, structured content that distills the complex into easily understood, bite-sized information. Number two, you need to build an email list. Is still very, very important. Most revenue is still generated from your email list in most cases. You also need to continue to invest in your blog, as we've been talking before. You need to be working on your distribution. Okay, that is never ending, and the challenge with that is that the battle of the algorithms continues every day. It changes. There's a tweak here, there's a tweak there. Like LinkedIn changed the way content was shared when they moved from updating people in your list and connections when you were doing long form articles. Now they're giving posts more information, which is more like a stream of consciousness now on LinkedIn. So. And we've got the rise of different distribution systems and tactics. So, like I mentioned, our push crew and Facebook bots. So it's this continuous evolution, and it's not Big Bang Theory. It's actually just a tweak a day, right?
Yeah.
Because when you a tweak a day. Yeah, so when you do a tweak a day at the end of the year, you've created something grand. Okay, so it's how do you write a book? One word at a time.
Self-discipline. I mean, every day counts. As you said, you mentioned before, and you mentioned now also, and you mentioned at the beginning of the interview, like experimenting, trying, failing, trying different, experimenting again. That's the key, and I love it because it's what I believe, and I wake up every day and I say I'm going to experiment. I don't know what is going to happen, but if I don't try, I never know. I'm just not going to move from the place I am.
Yeah. There's a great quote that says nothing happens until you start. So
exactly.
That's the reality.
And you said as you define yourself as a content marketer. What's the number one task you must do in order to start delivering results in content marketing? Because a lot of people talk about content marketing, but when you get to the point when you have to develop a strategy, a plan, content marketing itself, they just content. And what's the number task for you for giving this or delivering these results?
Content marketing is 2 words. All right. Content and marketing. Okay. So it's not build it and they will come. So you've actually got to work on those 2 core tactics. And then when you've done that, you need to work on the last piece of that equation, which is to convert that attention and trust and traffic that you get from that into leads and sales. So they're the 3 pillars, content, traffic, and conversion. So unless you are questioning on that, if you don't have conversion, you don't have a business. If you don't have content, you don't have a foundation. You don't have build credibility and trust. If you don't have traffic, no one can see you. So they're the 3 core things as a content marketer that you've really got to focus on. And that's distilling it down to the simplest level. But for me, I also need to learn to write. I think a lot of people say, well, I'm just going to be a video blogger and I'm not going to craft anything. And I just show up and I do a Facebook Live and you're going, that was pretty ordinary because they actually hadn't been strategic about the way they were actually creating content. You've got to learn how to craft words because the words are what are behind videos, words are behind podcasts, words are behind blog posts. So the power of words is really, really important to understand, the art of communication, whether it's standing on stage or whether it's running a webinar. So learn the power of communication.
And Jeff, well, let me tell you, if you are listening to this podcast, when we were starting the interview, Jeff had like a Phoenix watch, like a Garmin Phoenix, and he just told me that he was cycling around 100 kilometers this weekend. So it gives me brings me a question, like what's the day-to-day routine for Jeff Bullas?
We get up about 5:30 now. We used to get up at 4:30, but that was when I had a day job. So I get up, I will meditate. Then I will do some reading, and then I will do some writing, and then that's my deep work. So I have that habit and routine, and then I go and start doing the work, answering emails from about 10 or 11, and in the afternoon I concentrate and work on bigger projects. So we're putting together a digital marketing workshop at the moment. So that's the bigger project. We're looking at creating a big piece of content later in the year, so that's another project. So afternoons I try and leave to that. And in the middle of the day, typically I will go for a quick 35, 40-minute bike ride of about 18 kilometres just to sort of get the bud. So that's essentially my routine, and we'll work till about 6. We might catch up with some business connections in the evening or around 5, depending. That's not done every day. Sometimes you just got to get work done. But you got to, for me, it's still important to catch up with people that, whether they're friends, whether they're family, whether they're business colleagues, and there's nothing like surrounding yourself with good people.
I've got one of the interesting things. I really get interested in meditation. I mean, for how long you been meditating?
I started meditating back in the 1980s, so I went and did a meditation course. I haven't done it every day since then, but I've done it on and off. But I find it's really centering, and if you've got a few tough things on at the time, you don't feel like you've got time, I think it's still important to actually, it's more important than to do meditation to get that centering. So we've got to stop our minds from thinking and worrying, and it becomes a challenge sometimes. It is. In a stressful, changing world. Yep.
And when something pops up when you are meditating, like 4 or 5 days in a row, you know that you have something, you have to sort it out. Yes,
that's right.
For me, it's like intuition. It's like a gut saying 4 days in a row, I need to solve this. If not, it's going to pop it out, or at least if you solve it, another thing is gonna come again. And I'm gonna go there for rapid fire questions. Jeff, what's the ability has helped you the most to get you here?
The ability to write.
The ability to write. If you have to name one habit, what will it be?
The habit of doing deep work every day. In other words, sitting down, researching, writing, creating, and then sharing.
And I'm going to put this, the recommendation of the deep work book that Jeff did, because I've read just a few pages, but it's been recommended for a lot of people. So it has to be a good recommendation. It has to be showing up for people that want to read it. So it will be in the description. Jeff, what are your current projects up until now?
We're working on a big content project that I won't reveal exactly what it is, but it's a big piece of content which we'll be doing later in the year. So it's then we're doing we're putting together a fairly extensive digital marketing workshop for businesses that want to transform their marketing and their businesses. So that's a big project at the moment. That's nearly finished. And then we're going to double down more on, I think, AI and automation this year, and Facebook Messenger. So we've got a few tactics. So we've just started some simple stuff on that, but we're starting to have some fun on that now.
And what would you like to do next when you finish what you're doing?
I don't see myself finishing what I'm doing. I love what I'm doing. This is... JeffBullas.com is an extension of me. It's become really an extension of who I am. And it's quite interesting, this digital world where we amplify each other with humanity now. I'm reading a fascinating book. I want to write more books. I really want to be able to, I need to devote more time to writing deep work, which is a longer form book or books. So we're going to do that. But yeah, I don't see myself as actually stopping what I'm doing, because it's just something. It doesn't feel like work.
What will be the title, the headline of the book you would love to write?
The working title at the moment is Freedom Code. So it's going to be about essentially how to create a life and business that. Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
And that's wow. That's do you have a date? Any?
I've already written most of it. I'm just pulling it apart a little bit. No. End of the year is when I hope to get it out. Yeah. So I'm just pulling it apart a bit because I just needed to actually add more of an X factor to it, and I've needed to work on some different parts of the framework that the Freedom Code's actually going to have in it. So
we'll wait expectant to the book.
Yeah.
What are the places you go to learn, Jeff? What are your favorite resources apart from books?
Books are my big one. TED Talks is where I get a lot of inspiration. So sometimes when I'm eating my lunch, I will actually go and watch a 10, 15 minute, 20 minute TED Talk while I'm eating lunch.
I do
so that's a great source of inspiration for me. Other forms of inspiration are some of the people around me. So what they're doing, some of my peers and those who admire in the industry. I think what Ryan Deese is doing with digital market is pretty amazing. There's other people out there creating fantastic things. I think Andrew Warner at Mixergy, what he's done there has been pretty cool. He's now doing Bot Academy, which is training people how to actually build bots, which is we helped him launch a week or so ago. So I get inspiration from a lot of places, and I typically use my phone to capture pieces of inspiration. I typically, if I'm having a conversation with a friend over a coffee or a glass of wine, and we come up with something, and I say, "Oh, gee, I need to write that down." I'll pull my phone out, and I'll write notes. I'm actually ending up more writing. I'm experimenting with what I call prose, which is like very short sentence flowing writing. It's almost poetry / it's got a lot more rhythm. So I've been experimenting with that, which has been fun. So it's still experimenting with my writing voice.
It opens to creativity too.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm willing to experiment, and people tell me off for just using one-word sentences or using short sentences, not proper paragraphs. But writing's about creativity. I don't care. It's really having fun with the English language, because that's what I do. I don't speak any other language. So, but yeah, it's. I think the line by Stephen King in his book On Writing, which is a book anyone who wants to create great content should read, he says if you want to write a lot, you need to read a lot. There is no other way. So that is the truth.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. What's the podcast? What's the podcast you like the most, or you listen the most?
I don't listen to many podcasts.
Any you liked?
Tim Ferriss, I've sort of listened to some of his, but I'm going to tell you a little secret about why I'm not a big podcast listener. Number one, I don't do any commuting, so I'm not, and I don't like to have earbuds in when I go to gym. I just want to be at the gym, be in the now. Number two, I'm actually quite a fast reader, so I could actually read a transcript of a podcast in about 3 minutes, whereas listening to it would take me 30 minutes. Okay? So that's why I just find that reading for me is much more efficient. The other thing I like about reading too, especially in Kindle and that, is I can actually highlight notes. And when I want to go back... in a podcast, you can't do that. So there's a few reasons why I'm not a big podcast listener. It's not because I don't like podcasts. It's just because I'm wired a little differently. So that's fine.
And what's the blog you think is more useful for you? Or for the community, apart from yours, for sure?
There's just so many around. If you want a little bit of inspiration and pithy insight, Seth Godin never disappoints. Tim Ferriss still amazes me today, and his take on life is pretty fascinating. So he's what we call a modern-day Stoic. So he said that Stoicism is his life operating system. And I sort of get that. And about 2 years ago, I wrote a blog post called Is Pain Your Path to Success? And the reality is that you don't learn from comfort, you learn from pain. So essentially, you've got to change your attitude to life in terms of not treat pain as a problem, but even though it's not fun at the time, treat it as an opportunity to grow. And maybe happiness is overrated.
It is. It is. In sometimes. I mean, would you define you as a stoic?
I suppose I have that leaning, so I wouldn't call myself highly stoic, but I'd say mostly stoic. Yeah.
Can you give me the name of the person you learned from a number? Well, the person you learned most.
Seth Godin initially, David Meerman Scott, the New Rules of Marketing PR, and David and I have become friends, and it's been pretty cool to call him, have him as a friend. We don't see each other very often because he lives in Boston and I live in Sydney, but we've only met once physically. But David was one of the original sources of inspiration. The other source of inspiration for a long time that I just consumed was HubSpot's blog. They were huge. So, and now I collaborate with HubSpot on different projects. It's sort of fun.
That's
so
really
it's,
cool.
yeah. So people I admired, I'd like to meet Tim Ferriss one day because I think the way he operates is sort of, it's just fascinating. So there's some people that just inspire you in the way they live their lives and the way they create and the way they actually do things. So, yeah, there's a few pieces of inspiration, people, yeah.
If you could work in a different industry, what would it be?
Different industry. I work in industry that I enjoy. I don't think of any other industry I want to be in. I love being in the tech industry. It's never boring. So don't see any time soon that I'm going to go out and actually become a pharmaceutical entrepreneur. Technology.
I don't see it either.
Technology and digital business fascinates me. So this is the pond we're going to keep playing in.
Jeff, what's your dream? Say it loud. What will be your dream?
I'm living it. So I don't see a destination. I just see a place and journey that I enjoy doing. I want to continue to grow. I suppose one dream I'd have would be to write a New York Times bestseller. There you go. So that's one dream.
Nice.
So, yeah, there you go. You just discovered what my dream was, and I just discovered that today. So I have many dreams, but that's certainly one that I'd like to do. Yeah.
If anyone who's listening this podcast, anyone who's from Spain, from Latin America, from Europe, what will be your non-requested advice for them? What would you say?
For that particular market segment?
Yeah, for anyone who is listening this podcast. From your life lessons to your work lessons.
Okay. I suppose life lessons, there's just so many of them. Go under personal development, read my blog post and go and read. There's a lot of life lessons there, like pain, your pathway to success. That's certainly your attitude to pain is what will define you. And I think never, ever settle for an ordinary life, okay? So be prepared to actually hang in there, keep searching, keep looking, keep doing, strapping yourself in, doing the work. If you haven't found your passion in, keep looking, never settle.
Here you go. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Bullas. Thank you so much, Jeff, for being such an inspiration, for sharing with us these 46 minutes of magic, knowledge and experience and deep work and digital mindset, lifestyle mindset. Thank you for everything. Thank you for your blog, and for the time you gave us, so we can learn from you more closely. And I can learn from you more closely too. So thank you, Jeff.
It's been a pleasure and great to chat.
and hope we can catch up soon with a road bike through Sydney or maybe Valencia or Barcelona or whatever.
Well, we're about to go and do Tour de France on a little tour. So not the actual tour, but we will be doing a tour as part of the Tour de France in France in a few months' time. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm going to be sort of in your neighborhood, Europe, in the next few months.
Let me tell you, it's going to be an amazing experience, for sure.
It will be. It will be. I've got to keep training.
Yeah, you get it for sure. Thank you, Jeff. And hey, you just listened Jeff Bullas on Disrupt Everything podcast series, episode number 31. Can you believe it? We started 1 year ago. And last but not least, you don't need to share this. I mean, you don't need to share it with another person, but rather, if you have something that you have learned from here, apply it. If you think something was actionable, that it was, do it. Do it, and make it happen. And if you think just one person you can share this with, just share it. But mostly, do something. Thank you. I'm Isra Garcia. This is Disrupt Everything podcast series, and with the great Jeff Bullas. See ya.
Esto ha sido Disrupt Everything by Isra García. Encuentra el riesgo antes de que el riesgo te encuentre a ti.
Hey, gracias por llegar hasta aquí, por escuchar este podcast, ver este vídeo y sumarte a la liga del 1%, esa que marca la diferencia en el 99% restante. Gracias por tú, tal y como eres, tal y como ocurres. Te reto y te incito a que utilices una sola cosa de lo que has escuchado, visto en este podcast para tu vida, para impactar, para servir, para jugar, para practicar, para amar, para vivir, que es para lo que estamos aquí. Trabajar con excelencia, sí. Producir con excelencia, sí. Pero vivir con excelencia. Si esto ha resonado contigo, te espero en los nuevos episodios. Te espero en la Liga del 1%, la comunidad que poco a poco voy a empezar a construir con muchas cosas que no voy a desvelar, pero vas a vivir, tanto presenciales como online, tanto para tu vida, como para tu profesión, como para tu familia, como para tus negocios. Puedes suscribirte abajo en la descripción. Y un favor, voy a pedirte que si escuchas este podcast en YouTube, que vayas a Spotify o Apple Podcast, si utilizas alguno de ellos, te suscribas al podcast y dejes una valoración y una reseña, porque eso nos ayudará a llegar a todavía más personas. Este podcast ha alcanzado más de 6 millones de escuchas y más de 300.000 descargas al mes. Mi trabajo es seguir haciéndolo sin publicidad, sin pretender obtener nada más que esto. Para mí la acción, hacerlo, estar aquí es la propia realización, es el propio resultado, la propia recompensa. El haber impactado a cientos de miles de personas que ya están reinventándose a sí mismas. Si no utilizas ninguna de estas dos plataformas, deja un comentario aquí de qué te ha parecido, de cómo lo has vivido. Es importante porque tú cuentas, porque todo cuenta, porque cada instante es la gran victoria. Cada ser vivo es la gran victoria, cada uno de nosotros, cada movimiento, cada pensamiento, aunque no lo creamos, es la gran victoria de las victorias. Gracias, y vamos a seguir haciendo que las cosas sucedan, bailando con el momento, reinventándonos y utilizando la disrupción positiva para cambiar todo lo que importa. Vamos a ello.